That's the second death of an immigrant child in U.S. Customs and Border Protection care this month. The boy was identified by Guatemalan authorities as Felipe Gomez Alonso. He had been in government custody with his father since December 18 for a week. The government said in a statement late Tuesday night that an agent first noticed the boy had a cough and what was described as glossy, I guess they mean glassy eyes, at about 9 a.m. Monday. He was eventually hospitalized twice and died just before midnight. This little kid who has just shifted from 2 or 3 different places while he's running a high fever. The Customs and Border Protection said it needs the help of other government agencies to provide health care. The agency, quote, in their statement, they said the agency, the Customs and Border Protection, is considering options for surge medical assistance from the Coast Guard and may request help from Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, and FEMA. You would think, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think that when you are detaining and kidnapping and arresting and imprisoning thousands of children that you would have already done this? Oh, wait, this is the Trump administration. They don't do a goddamn thing except react to shit that they create. A spokesman for Customs and Border Protection said, I don't know how many kids are in our custody. I don't know. Can't even goddamn keep track of how many they have taken. They process thousands of children every month, some alone, some with their parents. Earlier this month, there was another little Guatemalan kid, little girl, Jacqueline Cayal, whose body was returned to her village in Guatemala for burial. Margaret Huang, who is the executive director of Amnesty International USA, said the Trump administration's policies, quote, of cruelty toward migrants and asylum seekers at the border must cease immediately before any more children are harmed, end quote. Do you think Trump's going to respond to that other than say, oh, go fuck yourself? And Ms. Trunchbull and the rest of the bastards that operate the White House press office referred any questions about this boy's death to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, which is the parent agency of Customs and Border Protection. The Commissioner of Customs and Border Protection offered up a variation of our thoughts and prayers go with the parents when he said that the child's death was, quote, a tragic loss. He's going to say it's a tragic loss. As if Customs and Border Protection are not specifically at fault. The agency issued a timeline of what they said happened before Felipe's death. Here's what they're saying. Felipe was taken with his father to a hospital in Alamogordo, New Mexico, where he was diagnosed with a common cold. The boy was released just before 3 p.m. about 90 minutes after he'd been found to have a fever of 103 degrees. That's when you admit someone to the hospital, not when you release them. Isn't that right? I mean, Christ, me, a white male American citizen, when I was in the hospital having a reaction to medication, had a temperature of 101. They didn't want to let me go. They didn't let me go. Here's a little boy who just traveled overland from Guatemala, a temperature of 103, and they say, well, here, have some amoxicillin and ibuprofen. And after that, he was taken with his father to a holding facility at a highway checkpoint. Oh, I'll bet that was well equipped, huh? That was at 3 p.m. At 7 p.m., agents helped clean up the boy's vomit. The Border Patrol Protection said the father, quote, declined further medical assistance then, end quote. The hell does that mean? Do you believe that? Shit. At about 10 p.m., the agency said the boy, quote, appeared lethargic and nauseous again, end quote. And agents decide to take him again to a hospital where the boy died Monday, just about midnight, just after midnight. The hospital declined comment, citing privacy regulations. Felipe and his father, it says here, were detained by Customs and Border Protection for about a week, which is an unusually long time, and the agency didn't respond fully as to why they were being held that long. Customs and Border Patrol typically detains immigrants for no more than a couple of days when they cross the border before releasing them or turning them over to ICE for long-term detention. Anyway, Customs and Border Protection said it apprehended Felipe and his father on December 18th, about 3 miles away from an official port of entry, the Paso del Norte bridge that connects El Paso and Juarez, Mexico. They were held at a processing center for 2 days, then taken to the El Paso Border Patrol station on Thursday. And again, the agency didn't say why it held Felipe and his father for so long, but said its officers repeatedly conducted welfare checks on them. Yeah, well, you better have your process changed, right? Oscar Padilla, the Guatemalan consul in Phoenix, Arizona, said he was told by the boy's father in a phone interview that the two had been traveling from their home in Nanton, a village about 280 miles from Guatemala City. They were planning to go to Johnson City, Tennessee. Xochitl Torres Small, a Democrat who will represent the district starting in January, where this happened, member of Congress, called for a thorough investigation into the child's death, both children, and more medical resources along the border. Torres Small, in an interview Tuesday, said, quote, "This is inexcusable. Instead of immediately acting to keep children and all of us safe along our border, this administration forced a government shutdown over a wall." Trump doesn't give a shit. Trump is in Iraq posturing and playing grab ass with American soldiers.
Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcast. You have your choice. You can listen to the ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.